It's time for your fan weather forecast brought to you by Habish, and Rotier. Partly cloudy conditions today. The sun popping out a little bit later. Today we have a high of 62 degrees and it's currently 50 degrees here in Milwaukee.
I am an eternal optimist. So please, God, don't tell me that you're an eternal pessimist.
I like to say I'm a realist.
Oh, it's great. We're going to get along great. This is going to be great.
This is Inside Wisconsin Sports with Trevor and Josh.
Crowd is here, about to blow, waiting for me to start the show. Out the curtain, lights go up from home. Whoa!
I think we try to go into this always taking the best player available and letting the needs kind of subconsciously, help build our board. Kind of feel like that's kind of what happened. But, I'm probably going to try to get to 20-some picks next year, so I don't think it's going to change the way I look at things. This was a unique year, and certainly wasn't lost to me as we went through it that, that we ended up with 6 and not more. I didn't think the opportunities to move back and add picks meant a lot of sense for us. And the times that we moved up, I thought it did. So I think it was just a unique year that way. But I do feel like we did some things with our roster that give me some, peace.
The Packers general manager, Brian Gutekunst, via the Packers YouTube channel or their website or wherever else you can watch those live press conferences, sharing as to why he thought the draft fell to the Packers the way it did. In the board and trading back and not seeing value. And Josh, a lot of that was actually stated exactly by him in his pre-draft press conference.
So you're saying that Goody stuck with the plan?
Indeed, he stuck with the plan and had a magic 8-ball and a crystal ball and that Bob Uecker ball that I have back here that just says every once in a while, you quote, he used all 3. What's up, Wisconsin? Welcome in. Happy Tuesday. Inside Wisconsin Sports on your radio and maybe on your phone and on your YouTube and your Twitter. Trevor Thomas, Josh Albrecht.
Hi.
We're live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. As we do every day to start the show, let's get you caught up.
Packers.
So apparently players are picking their numbers very early these days. Hopefully they don't switch, because Parsons did this and caused a number of people to have to go back and get a different number on the jersey. But you maybe saw this, Josh. Yesterday, midday, it came out that the Packers rookie picks have their jersey numbers confirmed because rookie camp is at the end of this week. What is your number, Josh, if you would have got drafted by the Green Bay Packers this past? First off, what position are you playing?
Oh, boy.
And then secondly, what's your number?
Bench warmer.
Okay.
Probably. And 5.
But you had to get drafted. So, like, what position?
Oh, yeah, you don't draft at a bench warmer.
Yeah.
Boy, I don't know. I guess lineman, really bad lineman. It's based on my size.
Middle. Got
it. But number 5.
Number 5. I don't think you can.
Oh, trust me. Yeah, right. That number's retired. I know.
Yeah.
But number 5 has always been my number.
No, you can't.
That's my number. I don't have another
Not
number.
in the Packers organization. Cisse has number 2. McClellan, 55. Dennis Sutton, 51. Burton, 52. Jackson, 20. And Smack, 28. I'm curious how Mr.
Mason?
Crosby feels.
Yep. That's the thing. There are certain. I know. We go through this conversation every year of there are only so many numbers. You can't just retire everyone's number. You can't do it. But I always felt like once you give someone's number away, as an organization, you're saying, just know, like, this guy's nothing's happening with this number. This number is just going to keep recycling through. Thought about that with Leroy's when 36 went. I thought about that immediately when I saw Cisse with 2. Not that I ever thought about it with 2, but it was just, I'm always going to think Mason. I'm always going to think Mason with number 2.
It really does make you think what the qualifications for a retired number are. Because right now it's quarterback and like founders.
Right.
And Reggie.
Reggie's the exception. What about 52 for Clay as well? You're going to tell me that there's a different 52 you're thinking of? No way. You look at like jerseys that even now are still worn to Packers games that are non-quarterback. You see a ton of Clay Matthews jerseys. Ton of them.
I always find it interesting too when there are a number of there's numerous jersey numbers in training camp. There's 90 players.
Right.
I think there's 90 numbers still available, maybe not based on what's retired. So they do double up. I just find that fascinating.
Yeah, what they have to do. At what point, especially like in camp, do they go like, all right, just stick like 106 on that guy? You know what I mean?
I don't think it fits.
Well, yeah, just squeeze it. Make it fit. I don't know. Do something.
We're going to see
It is a problem, though, right? That at some point in sports, maybe not even in our lifetime, but like if the sports that we watch and these traditions continue, eventually, for certain teams, numbers are going to run out. The biggest problem, right? You think of like the Yankees. How many numbers have the Yankees retired? Like, how at some point, right? If there's only 99, I guess 100 if you allow 0.
Well, if you think about this, though, from the Packers' perspective, there's 53 on the roster, right?
Yep.
The only other number that's going to get retired that is currently not being used is 12.
Correct.
There's a lot of numbers left.
Correct. For the Packers, there is right now. Yeah. I mean, they got 1, 5, 3, 4, 14, 15, 66, and 92 are gone. So you're right. Less than 10.
Andy in Brookfield on the Nicolay Law Talk and text line 414-677-1250 says, guys, duh. Packers legend, number 52, Rashawn Gary.
Yep, absolutely. Rashawn Gary, the first person that comes to mind when I think of 52. Yep.
Can't get rid of that number in my head fast enough, for real. Who do you think of when you see 55?
No one.
Was Desmond Bishop number 55?
Maybe.
Why is that? I can't remember what I had for lunch yesterday, but I feel like these names and numbers in my head in regard to sports. Jair? No, it was Zaire. It was. What number was Desmond Bishop?
Kinsley Barre, it looks like, was 55.
What number was Desmond Bishop?
Let me see.
We'll have to find it. Packers rookie minicamp at the end of this week, and then OTA is in about a month.
You're right. He was 55.
Yeah. Why? How?
Some people just have that, like with jersey numbers. Like, I know people that set all of their pins and passcodes based on jersey numbers.
'Tis me.
This is the way that people communicate.
Yep, that's exactly what I do. Although I feel like I'm failing as a father because when Riker picked out his softball jersey, his softball jersey number, he goes, Dad, what number do you think I picked? And I'm like, Bud, I don't know. 42, that's my number. And he goes, No. It's one of your roulette numbers. And I was like, oh my God. Do I talk about roulette that often? But all of those numbers are based on birthdays and anniversaries. 3, 4, 10, 11, 16, 22, 26, and then number 23 for Michael Jordan. That's how I play roulette.
Okay.
That's why I lose a lot.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Good.
All right, moving on. Brewers.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Brewers.
All right, so back home for 3 more before they hit the road.
Didn't lose yesterday.
Didn't win yesterday.
Oh, look at Mr. Pessimism over here.
Yeah, right. Here's the deal. The Diamondbacks, not a bad baseball team. 15-12 coming into AmFam Field today. They're in the middle of the pack in the NL West. And we've talked about how the teams that the Brewers are losing to aren't teams that you would look at and go, oh, that makes sense. They're the better baseball team. They're in the top of their standings. Yet you look at others within the Central Division, and they're playing some of the teams in the top of the standings. like the Cubs and the Padres yesterday.
Mhm.
The Dodgers are 20-9. The Padres are 19-9. And then the Diamondbacks in the NL West. So, Josh, these 3 games have to be ones that the Brewers go, we have to win this series, if not sweep the backs.
So I think it's really interesting because when you look at some of these other teams and their records right now, I definitely would say those are better teams than the Milwaukee Brewers right now, which is why we say it's so important to win any game that this team has the opportunity to win. We are all well aware that they are going through a stretch of make it through to get healthy. We just got to make it through, weather the storm, stay in it, be in one of those situations. But there's no way when I look at the 20 and whatever Dodgers and the 19-9 Padres that I'm going, yeah, the Brewers can hang with them. No, absolutely not. Not right now. So weather the storm the best you can and hope for the best. It's just the reason why it's frustrating. I go back to the Packers. The Packers weren't supposed to win a lot of those games post Micah Parsons going down, but they put themselves in positions to, and then they still lost, and that sucked. When the Brewers are going up against some of these teams, against the Pirates, who are, according to the records, a better team than the Brewers, and they put themselves in positions to win those games, and then they don't, that sucks. You can't give away those missed opportunities.
See how it shakes out. Chad Patrick on the mound today, we think.
Maybe. DL Hall going to start for him again?
Aaron Ashby, maybe? I don't know.
Ugh.
Tomorrow, Brandon Sproat, and then the day game on Thursday, Brandon Woodruff on the mound for the Brewers. On the injury front, we've been told we should get Jackson Chourio back, quote, early May. Well, that's Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Any news? I haven't seen any.
You want to take a guess? Should we guess?
Over under? Let's do the over under.
Definitely over. There's no way we're seeing him early.
Okay, I was going to say May 15th is the over under.
Yeah, I was going to go third week of May, so I'll go a little after you. I'll go May 21st. You're going to tell me early May. I'm going at least. I usually that means in 2 to 4 weeks after when you predict. It's just how every injury is gone. Whenever they say this guy's going to be back, it's always like a month after.
But that's bad chess. That doesn't help your own squad unless they all know something that we don't.
I know.
I went at Take Back Tuesday a little bit different today. One of the ones I wrote down that we're going to do just before the top of the 8 o'clock hour. Do you think, now listen, I understand Venezuela won, and that was just monumental time for those guys. But if you're Jackson Chourio and you know now, do you not play in the World Baseball Classic? Do you take back playing? I'm curious to get your thoughts on that. We'll talk about that later in the show. All right, Badgers. Hey, look at that. Sorgi 2.0.
Badgers.
We didn't talk about it yesterday, but over the weekend, the Badgers, in terms of class of 2027, hit a big one. 4-star quarterback Jack Sorgi. Oh, yeah. Jim Sorgi. Played for the Badgers from 2000 to 2003. He was selected in the 6th round of the 2004 NFL draft by the Indianapolis Colts. The Badgers are doing great at recruitment for 2027. That's a long ways from now.
It's true. The one thing I think of, and maybe it's just a scar tissue that is remaining. But do you remember when they brought in Fickell and the amount of promotional videos on Facebook and Twitter that went up saying like,
jump around, Wisconsin.
Right. Another commitment to the Badgers. And we were like, man, we knew Fickell was going to bring in some dudes, but look at how many 4 or 5-star recruit QBs do we have right now? Like 3 or 4 on the roster. This is nuts. It didn't matter. And so it's just really hard for me to look at this news and be like, all right, they're getting some 4 and 5-star recruits and be excited about it, knowing that was the whole sell of when Fickell got here, where I went, woohoo, this is going to be different. And it wasn't.
Well, we can't keep a quarterback healthy. This actually is, to your point, Josh, the 5th composite 4-star commitment in the class of 2027. Joining running back Kingston Allen, offensive lineman Cole Ryder, tight end Coors Loken, and offensive lineman Hunter Mallinger. So I guess we wait and see. there's a piece of me that goes, all right, these dudes are committing to the Badgers program under Luke Fickell. Well, what if this year is a complete dumpster fire?
Yeah.
Then Luke Fickell is no longer the head coach, and then all these recruits go, meh, I'm back open for business.
Or if they just decide, hey, someone else is going to pay me more money. What does a commitment even mean today? They don't have to sign any contracts or anything. They could very easily just go, well, never mind, decommitting, going here, bye.
They're working on that at the NCAA level. There was a bit of news yesterday about this whole 5-year window thing that we brought up some weeks ago that has passed at least the first level of approval from the NCAA. There's so many things
to be instated in 2028. Perfect.
Right. Well, it's a start.
Yeah, that's true.
We're walking like an old person with a walker.
Yep.
Click, click,
baby
click,
steps,
click.
baby steps.
Click, click, click. Bucks aren't in the playoffs, and there's no news to share, really.
No, true. That's okay, though. I'm okay with that.
Ryan Wing, he's the sports director for Fox 11 in Northeast Wisconsin, said on Twitter last night, quote, the Bucks were probably hoping for a team or two to flame out in the NBA playoffs and get desperate to make a Giannis trade. Can make a case there might be 3, Rockets, Pistons, Heat, possibly even Knicks, Cavs, depending on how their series play out. So what are your thoughts on that, Josh? Do we need one of these teams that are kind of in the mix for Giannis to screw the pooch here and get out of the playoffs so that we can have the conversation and move on with our lives?
Yeah, it was funny because when the series first started for the Knicks, I was saying, I don't like the Knicks. I don't want them to win. And Kuhn, when I was talking to him, when I was filling in for 9 to noon, went, yeah, but if you want Giannis to stay, isn't it better to have a team like the Knicks that was driving that conversation to prove they didn't need Giannis? And then that kind of kills any trade opportunity. The Knicks aren't looking at this narrative of, oh, we were just a Giannis away from winning it all. We got to trade for him. And I thought, that's a really good point. And so I don't know, but I will tell you, you just read off, 5-6 teams? That's a decent amount of teams that you only need 2 to start a bidding war. And if you're talking about 6 out there, I think we're going to be just fine should the Bucks decide to go that route.
An interesting piece of audio from the Magic Pistons game last night. We will share with you coming up in the most electrifying sound of the day. All right, anything else?
Anything else?
Yes.
Let us pray.
Oh, yes. For good things.
Dear God, my son got his license.
Woo!
Just, you know the rest. Amen.
Amen. Hey,
Holy.
good for him.
That brought out some serious emotions yesterday. I did not see coming, man. Like, it's a big stepping stone in being a parent that your child now has freedom at a different level.
Yeah.
And right away last night, we were talking about what it looks like to go to school this morning. Well, can I drive to school? Yeah, but 41 is an absolute S show right now, so don't take that way. And we're not convinced you know how to get there the other way without your phone, which I don't want you using.
Sure.
So today, we're going to take the bus. And then tonight, when I get home after work, I'm actually going to hop in the car with him and make him
Smart.
drive himself to school without any help to prove to us that he knows he can. And then maybe we'll talk about what's next.
So was it just a realization for you? Because, I mean, obviously the second the kid gets the car, he's going to want. I feel like it's the lesson comes afterwards. They get the keys, they go, all right, let's go. And then especially if you're making them pay for their own gas, it does not take long for them to be like, no, someone's coming to pick me up. I'm not driving us to wherever because I don't have gas money. And it changes
We've had
things.
the conversations about who is responsible for the insurance, which, by the way, we got the number.
Ooh. You
Our
said
monthly-
150. That was your guess.
I thought that's what I thought. I was off on that.
Oh,
Thank you, son, for having over a 3.0 grade point average
Okay.
and volunteering in our community
Okay.
and all the other things that you can do as a teenage boy to qualify for discounts with American Family Insurance.
All right.
Our premium monthly by adding our 16-year-old son. Now, granted, he's insured on the vehicle that he's going to drive,
Yeah.
not the others. Went from $38 a month to $100.
Okay. So under.
But damn.
Yeah. But come on, you thought it was going to be 150. You got to be happy about that.
I did. Well, we were pitching 150 hard in the house, which put it in his head that it was going to be 150. And now that it's less than that, he's like, oh, I can pay for that. We're like, perfect. That was
terrible
the plan
negotiator.
Anyway.
Terrible negotiator.
He's going to be in sales.
Yeah.
But it was just one of those moments where when you see your son come back in, get the passing grade, and then it goes fast, right? He gets his picture taken for his license. He's at the front counter doing the little eye test thing and actually getting his license. And it's like, holy hell.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I'm not obviously at that point as a parent, right? I got a 9-year-old. I got a ways to go before I'm having that conversation. But it is really cool to see that, like, this is the first time you're going through that, right? That's like, I feel like what you experienced yesterday, that's like a core memory dad moment,
Sure.
that like you didn't think about since you were him getting your first car, getting your license. And then you forget about it until now your kid's doing it. I think that's really cool.
He works at Culver's in De Pere. And he immediately, when we got home, he's like, all right, Dad, I want to go to Culver's and figure out what's going on with my work schedule and all that. And we're like, great, go do that. Actually, why don't you bring back a lunch surprise for Mom and I as well?
Yeah.
That would be nice. Watching him pull out of our driveway alone.
And the cat's in the cradle and the silver
Yeah.
spoon.
I turned around and Amanda's
man
bawling.
on the moon.
Bawling. And I'm like, okay, uh-oh. And he's not leaving for college, guys. I'm like, we're okay. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
But then his shift was done at 9:00 last night after work because he ended up getting called in because he went there and he's like, oh, I can work past 7:30 now or whatever the number is, 6:30, because he turned 16 and the work permit thing goes out the door. Oh, you can? Well, God, we could really use you tonight. So he ends up going to work last night, right? It's 9:00, which is when we would typically be in the parking lot to go and pick him up. Then it's 9:02. Then it's 9:04. Then it's 9:10. And I'm like, here we go. Amanda texted him, bro, are you coming home? Like, it's night one. Oh, no, just worked 4 minutes longer, Dad. Just chill out. Jesus.
Yeah. Yep. You got to watch yourself there, too. It'll take a minute.
There's going to be a moment. For sure. But we're excited for him. Congrats to him. He got, do you remember the point system in your driver's test, by the way? Remember this when you were going to get your license?
I don't remember like exactly what the system was. Or how many. I think I got like 3 points off or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So you're allowed 25 before you fail. I remember I had 2 points. I was too far away from the curb. I thought I had 1. Upon further review, it was 2. Too far away from the curb, and I didn't use my rear view mirrors enough. Some of his buddies had like 24, almost failed. They came back with 18 points off. But it sounded a little nitpicky. However, as we're in the waiting room, and then we'll move on and get to the question of the day coming up on Inside Wisconsin Sports with Trevor and Josh. We've talked a lot about the 90s. We're reminiscing now. What was the worst sports moment from the 1990s? And don't cop out and just say Super Bowl 32.
Oh.
I mean, it's on the list, clearly. But what else?
I have a story, too. Okay.
414-677-1250, the Nicolay Law talk and text line. We're in the waiting room at the DMV. And all I can think about is no past Patty.
Where is she?
And I look, well, we're in Appleton.
That's right.
She's in Green Bay. But I look over right before his test. Probably not great timing. And I go, you guys, to Amanda and Rhodey. What if no past Patty's filling in Appleton today? And he looks at me like, what? What?
Or no chance Cheryl or, there's her cousin's working.
I don't know the woman's name, but she passed him. I guess that's all that matters. Whew, sweaty. It's weird having older kids, man. It goes fast. Jack and Jordy need to be bottled up and put in the corner if you don't want them to age anymore.
Darn right.
What was the worst moment? I mean, I know it's not very optimistic, but we spent a lot of time celebrating the 90s recently. What was one of the worst or few worst moments in Wisconsin sports in the 90s? 414-677-1250. That's the Nicolay Law talk and text line. We're live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. It's Inside Wisconsin Sports with Trevor and Josh. Oh, dude, nice song.
When things just don't add up, Trevor and Josh ask the hard questions or just point out how messed up stuff is.
I only have one question. Can you fly this plane and land it?
Surely you can't be serious. Do you view this season as a failure?
You asked me the same question last year.
What's the most important question the Badgers have to answer Saturday?
This is a great question. Oh my God, this is a great question.
It's time for I Have Questions on Inside Wisconsin Sports with Trevor and Josh.
414-677-1250, the Nicolay Law talk and text line. I have questions. We've done a lot of conversation lately in regard to the 1990s and what it was like being a 90s kid from a Wisconsin sports perspective. And often we key on the positive. Maybe I'm a little annoyed from the whole spoiled thing yesterday, which we have an entire 40 minutes scheduled in the morning mind dump. Like after the show yesterday, Josh and I, as we do every day, got together and we're like, all right, what are we talking about tomorrow? And we're like, I am not well with this whole spoiled thing. So we're going to bring that back, run that back, starting at 7:00 with the Malott Meats morning mind dump. The idea there being, are we spoiled? Because yesterday, not so sure that was accurate. Today, well, tease, see at 7. But for now, let's just look at the 90s for a hot second and talk about the worst moments, which will help you understand not so spoiled. There's some good moments in the 90s. We talked about that before. Mm-hmm. But what about the bad moments in Wisconsin sports in the 1990s? Josh, what made your list?
So the number one was absolutely the Super Bowl because I was 7, 8. And like, that was the thing. We had just won and there was Super Bowl gear everywhere. I mean, my parents bought throw pillows that said Super Bowl champions on them. Like I had posters. And then, so it was like the first time really that I think I super fell in love with a team. And then that team was supposed to win again. It wasn't a fluke. It was they were supposed to be there. And then they lost. And not only was I sad, but then seeing your dad bummed too, which I try to think about sometimes, like when I'm watching sports with Jordy and I'm like, all right, like hold it in and then go be alone and then be upset. Like, don't let Jordy see you be so emotionally wrecked from a sporting event because it stuck with me. It's going to stick with him. But that one was just far and beyond the worst.
And looking back now, losing the Super Bowl, horrendous. But that also started an era of Green Bay Packers football that wasn't so hot there right after that.
Yep. And
the idea, too, of losing that Super Bowl, we didn't know it then, but it absolutely slammed that dynasty door completely shut. The Favre, Reggie White, Mike Holmgren era of Packers football was no more. 414-677-1250. The Nicolay Law talk and text line. A lot of people with a lot of bad memories from the 90s when it comes to Wisconsin sports. One of the first ones I read in connection with this, Jason in the 920. 2 words, Ray Rhodes. Mm-hmm. Any other questions? No?
Yep. That's exactly it, right? That was, and to be honest with you, Ray Rhodes obviously wasn't the answer, but that, to your point, it was all of it. It all fell apart. It was more than just, hey, there's going to be a new coach here. That made a tough time for a while.
If you were us and got to read all of the Brewers bashing texts from Bob in Minneapolis, you would understand why his is the Brewers. It's the reason I have the attitude I have toward the team. Bob in Minneapolis kind of has a point. Mm-hmm. The Brewers won 92 games in 1992 and didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then we fall into this baseball irrelevance era the rest of the 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah, so that's why, like, you're looking for a specific moment. It's very difficult for me to look at the 90s and of Brewers baseball as a kid and be mad because I got to go to a lot of games because the team sucked. They never got above 500 for, that stretch from 93 on. The closest they came was in 96. They were 80 and 82. It was close, but I mean, they were terrible. So tickets were super cheap. My dad was able to take me to games. We went to games all the time, and it was just because of what it was. It doesn't help that also at that same time, it was, you think about what was coming in the late 90s with the Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire. And so not only did you have these polarizing figures in the game, but they were playing for the Cubs and the Cardinals. And so the teams around you were celebrating too when you were just in the absolute dumpster of the division.
Another one that has made multiple lists in front of us is the 49ers Packers the Catch 2 game. January 3rd, 1999, the wild card playoff game. The 414 says here, the Jerry Rice fumble and Terrell Owens playoff game in San Francisco was awful. Holmgren left after that game, and then we got Ray Rhodes, went 8-8. The Packers screwed the pooch. Favre's career thereafter was fairly meaningless. That's Jeff from Fox Point. The 920 right above that. Owens. 8-year-old Mike was bawling in the living room. That was a bad. I know exactly where I was. I can picture. I could take you to the house, in the basement, on the TV, where I was when Terrell Owens caught that football. 49ers 30, Packers 27. But it was only the wild card too. The problem was that was the Packers team that was on one there for a solid 3 or 4 year stretch. And then it was no more. Josh, what about this one? 1998. Remember Robert Tractor Trailer?
Yeah. Yeah.
Dirk Nowitzki.
Mm-hmm.
Whoopsies.
Yep. The thing is that it wasn't like immediate, right? That was just one that we look back now and go, cool, we made sports history for a terrible decision.
Trade ever.
Yeah, not even close.
The Bucks drafted Dirk at number 9 in the 1998 NBA draft and sent his rights along with Pat Garrity to Dallas for Robert Tractor Trailer. And then Dirk became an MVP and a champion and a finals MVP and one of the greatest players of all time.
Yeah. But how did Tractor Trailer? He was good, right?
Never played for the Bucks.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, that was really, really bad.
The Cowboys were a thorn in the side of the Green Bay Packers in the 90s. Jeff from Luxembourg says, when the Packers lost to the Cowboys in 95, we had lost to them so much in the early Holmgren era. That game, we were in it and just couldn't get over the hump. Lost 38-27. I remember being pretty heartbroken.
Man, I don't know how I feel about this topic.
Listen, it's a setup. We're reminiscing about the 90s that is showing you we're not spoiled Wisconsin fans. For the love of Pete. At 7 o'clock, the Malott Meets Morning Mind Dump. Are we spoiled? Let's have the talk.
Well, and this is why I'm really going to love that conversation too, because we're going to focus primarily, at least I am, on the Brewers and Brewers fans based on that spoiled message from Pat Murphy yesterday, or 2 days ago, I should say. But you think about Brewers fans, we just brought up Brewers fans in the 90s. If you've been a diehard Brewers fan since the 90s, or essentially even late 80s, you had 1 year before 2008. You had 1 year.
Yeah.
That was it. So I don't know how spoiled you can be, but if we're not spoiled, what are we? That's the conversation.
Quit spreading lies. We never had a chance at Dirk.
Well, and so this is kind of that conversation that it was the pick was always going to be traded, is what they're saying, which it doesn't change the fact that it existed.
That's it.
Right.
That's the tweet. That was a bad moment in hindsight.
The 608 says, my 90s moment, the Bucks were so bad, I had to play as Brad Lohaus and Blue Edwards when NBA Jam came out. Very true.
Man.
They were the worst.
True.
It was the worst team. However, I got to say, I think that was also part of it when you talk about the worst sports moments of the 90s. It was kind of like, besides the Packers, the other big teams didn't have like crushing losses. They just sucked. So it was kind of like you kind of look at it in general as it just wasn't a great time in general through those, but there wasn't like a specific moment where it all fell apart or when something. I think that's what made Super Bowl 32 so impactful, because they were good. They were supposed to be good, and then something happened. The Brewers sucked. They continued to suck through the 90s. Nothing really crushing happened.
I rest my case, Your Honor. There will be no further questions. When we come back, the most electrifying sound of the day. We're live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. It's Inside Wisconsin Sports with Trevor and Josh. I know about the trade, but it doesn't mean we didn't draft Dirk. That's my point.
Do you know about the trade?
Yeah, it's right in front of me.
Okay.
It's time for
The most electrifying,
sound of the day
the most electrifying.
on Inside Wisconsin Sports with Trevor and Josh. Brought to you by Best Electric. Learn more at bestelect.com. Don't stress. Connect with the best.
Gonna hit on the Jays. Okay. Uh-oh. Be careful. Turns the corner. Cunningham in the corner, no good. Stewart put it in with 3.4. Inbound to Bain. They'll dribble out the clock. Orlando takes a commanding 3-1 series lead over the 1 seed Detroit.
Jamal Cain with a nasty dunk to help the Magic go up 3-1 against the number 1 seed Pistons is the most electrifying sound of the day. Brought to you by our friends at Best Electric. Remember, no job is too big or too small for Best Electric. Don't stress. Connect with the best. Call them today or visit bestelect.com. Trev, there's a big reason why that was important to me. And I said this needs to be the most electrifying sound. 8 seed over 1 seed upsets are really cool when it's not your team.
Yeah.
The 2022-2023 season for the Bucks, they were the number 1 seed, lost to the number 8 seed Heat. You remember that? Do you remember that they lost that series 4-1? Did you know that that's the only time that an 8 seed has beat a 1 seed 4-1?
Come on, Magic.
There's a chance. There's a chance
not just us.
for the Bucks to no longer stand alone as the only 1 seed to go down 4-1 in the first round of the NBA playoffs. The Magic have a shot to put the Pistons away. Let's go, Magic.
We also saw that Cooper Pratt won the NBA Rookie of the Year. Cooper, what'd I say?
Pratt.
Did I say Cooper?
You did.
Cooper Pratt. If I'm Con Knipple, am I not sick of that guy?
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those where you're like, hey, really happy for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
You go away now.
Hired me. What else do I need to do?
Well,
you see that whole NBA three-pointer record thing? Remember that?
Yeah. So he's got that, right? Man, I really hope the Magic do this. That was such a terrible time when Jimmy Butler just, I don't know, decided to be the best he's ever been in his entire career. And I was at that game too. Like when it all fell apart, I was like, this is just terrible. I think I was even there with Kuhn.
Are you paying attention to the NBA playoffs at all, really?
A little bit, not a ton. It just kind of news and notes, but seeing that note made me really, really happy.
Knowing that we're not a fan of any of the 16 teams that are in the NBA playoffs, because our team isn't, is there a team that we're rooting for?
Not really. I'm more rooting against teams than I am for teams.
You love hate watching.
I sure do. When my team's not playing, it's a great way to still enjoy sports. Cheer against the other guy. But I will say I love upsets. I still love upsets if it's not my team. And so seeing that type of stuff, seeing teams that aren't supposed to be there go up big, I love that. I also guess I don't mind the Timberwolves. I think Anthony Edwards is a good player. They're up 3-2 right now over the Nuggets.
Right now, April 28th, who's going to be in the NBA Finals?
OKC and whoever's going to lose to OKC.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Is that where that's again?
That's what I'm thinking.
I want the Cavs to beat the Lakers, because wouldn't that be cool?
Sure. That would be cool.
Would that make LeBron go away finally?
But that would also mean that LeBron is back in the NBA Finals, which I also don't want.
But I want him to lose, and then bye-bye.
Yeah, I still don't even want him to be there. I'm mad that he's still playing now. Wish the Lakers
Why do you
were
hate
out.
LeBron so much?
Because I like Michael Jordan.
That's it, right?
That's all I need.
If anybody dislikes LeBron James, it has very little to do with LeBron James and more to do that there are a bunch of idiots still comparing LeBron James to Michael Jordan.
Mm-hmm. I don't need to add any fuel to that fire.
How do you feel about the NBA logo?
I don't mind it.
There was conversation when Kobe died that they should change it out.
Yeah.
I believe it's Jerry West right now.
Correct.
How do you feel about that?
No, I think you keep it just as it is.
If they're going to change it, with all due respect to Kobe, it's got to be Jordan.
Yeah. Jordan has his own silhouette.
Exactly.
I don't think they need to put another
What
Jordan
would
out
the
there.
NBA logo be? The Jordan logo.
Yeah.
Actually, it would just be that.
Yeah, I think that's okay. No, keep it the same. We don't need to change more things that aren't broken. It's okay. Keep it how it is.
The Malott Meats Morning Mind Dump is upon us. If you missed it yesterday, Coach Murphy, Manager Murphy, over the weekend made a comment about how there's a chance those that are fans and or affiliated with the Milwaukee Brewers are spoiled because of how, quote, damn competitive we've been. Okay. Well, the pilot light of anger was lit yesterday when I heard them say this.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to thinking, are we? And Josh said, well, from a Brewers perspective, are we? And I went, well, what about Wisconsin sports in general? The Malott Meats Morning Mind Dump is going to take a hot second today, and we want your feedback. Are we spoiled as Brewers fans and or just Wisconsin sports fans in general? I was born in 83. Josh was born in 90. According to my timeline, I would not use the word spoiled to describe Brewers/Wisconsin sports fans. Would you? 414-677-1250, the Nicolay Law talk and text line. We're live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. It's Inside Wisconsin Sports with Trevor and Josh. Good morning, Wisconsin. I am an eternal optimist. So please, God, don't tell me that you're an eternal pessimist.
I like to say I'm a realist.
Oh, it's great. We're going to get along great. This is going to be great.
This is Inside Wisconsin Sports with Trevor and Josh.
Crowd is here, about to blow, waiting for me to start the show. Out the curtain, lights go up, I'm home. Whoa!
I think we try to go into this always taking the best player available and letting the needs kind of subconsciously, help build our board. Kind of feel like that's kind of what happened. But, I'm probably going to try to get to 20-some picks next year, so I don't think it's going to change really the way I look at things. This was a unique year, and certainly wasn't lost to me as we went through it that, that we ended up with 6 and not more. I didn't think the opportunities to move back and add picks meant a lot of sense for us. And the times that we moved up, I thought it did. So I think it was just a unique year that way. But I do feel like we did some things with our roster that give me some, peace.
It didn't make sense to get picks and move back. And it didn't make sense to use the picks that we had in the back, so we used them to move up. Just happened to be for a kicker.
Yep.
Brian
Made sense
Gutekunst,
at that time.
in his post-NFL draft presser. There's a lot more to come about Goody and what he said pre-draft and how, if now that we know what we know, how much could we read into what he said? We'll play a few clips for you coming up in the 8 o'clock hour. What's up, Wisconsin? Welcome in Inside Wisconsin Sports. Trevor Thomas, Josh Albrecht.
Hi.
Live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. It is 7 a.m.-ish. And every day at this time, we allow you the space to get things off your chest and out of your head so you can start your Tuesday the way it should be and not carry your baggage of bummed outness into whatever it is that you have planned for your Tuesday. Unless somebody says to you, you spoiled little Brewer fan, Wisconsin sports person, then you have the ability to be pissed off, which I was yesterday. And I might be a little bit still today about it.
You going to get it off your chest and out of your head?
Right now, time for the Malott Meets Morning Mind-Up.
I hear voices in my head, they counsel me, they understand, they talk to me.
The coffee is kicked in. We're awake and ready to roll. Let's get some things off our chest and out of our heads.
You don't know what it's like to be me out here for you. It is an up at dawn, pride-swallowing siege that I will never fully tell you about, okay?
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
I'm in a glass case of emotion.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
We've got no food. We got no jobs. Our pets' heads are falling off.
It's time for the Morning Mind Dump, presented by Malott Meats. High-quality meats at a fair price, safely delivered to your front door. To learn more, visit wisconsinmeatmarket.com. Experience the power of the family meal with Malott Meats on Inside Wisconsin Sports with Trevor and Josh.
Are you on the gram? Is that what the kids call it? The Instagram, the gram?
I don't think they do anymore.
What do they call it now?
I don't know. If I knew, I'd be cool.
Insta?
IG. Do they even use it anymore? It's probably
I think
some
they
new
do.
app.
Definitely not the Facebook. Go to Instagram and search Malott Meats. Matt, the meat guy, puts out a Mondays with Matt. And yesterday he cooked the two options that Malott Meats has most readily available for you in regard to tenderloin. Cooked them up, showed us how. Oh, the meat was glorious.
Nom, 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 nom.
Yeah. Malott Meats can ship high-quality meats and safely deliver them to your front door. To learn more, head to wisconsinmeatmarket.com. You got time. Mother's Day coming a week from Sunday, right? Right?
Oh, my gosh. So
I think it's a week from Sunday.
What?
Yeah, well, write that down. All right, the Malott Meats Morning Mind Dump comes from this clip from Pat Murphy over the weekend.
Milwaukee Brewers baseball, who would have thunk it? 13-12, and we're all like doom and gloom. Feels like we're 3-30, doesn't it? Doesn't it? We're so used to it. We're so spoiled from being so damn competitive.
Okay. So he was mentioning how Brewers fans, or just maybe the Brewers organization, is spoiled because of how competitive we've been. To which I go, what?
Right.
Spoiled?
There's
So
a lot,
the idea,
there's a lot to analyze here. There's a ton to analyze.
well, the good news is we have about 40-ish minutes planned to analyze said quotes.
Yeah.
Let's start here. And I love the way Jason in the 920 puts this into perspective right away. 414-677-1250, the Nicolay Law talk and text line. This dude's been doing this to me for 38 years. Everyone praised Murph for having that dad mentality with the team. Apparently, it's not so fun when he's doing the dad thing with the fans. Jason, you're right. I don't need a dad to tell me this from a coaching. I have a dad.
You're not my dad.
I don't need to be called spoiled with how much it costs to be a fan of these teams. Let's be real. So that got Josh and I going, all right, let's break this down for a hot second in today's Malott Meets Morning Mind Dump. In regard to being a Brewers fan, in 2026, are we spoiled?
It's I think one of the most gray area questions we've ever had to answer or think about in the time we've done this show. Because this organization has seen the lowest of lows without seeing the highest of highs.
Mm-hmm.
And so what is the idea of we've had success, right? We talked a little bit about this with Tim Allen yesterday when we had him on the franchise, and he said it all comes back to defining success. What is success for this team, for this organization? A lot of us sit here and we go, they still haven't won a World Series. And until they do, they've failed. That's the goal. And I think for a long time, you could say that's the goal, but we all knew, that wasn't in the cards, right? If you step into my world of realism, they're not winning the World Series. Even in 2008, I think the goal was, let's get back to the postseason, right? That's why the whole city went nuts. The whole state went nuts.
Yeah, pop the balloon.
Because they finally got back after 26 years to the postseason baseball. Well, now postseason baseball in Milwaukee has become pretty standard, right? We've been there a lot. We haven't done much with it. We do something with it once every 6-10 years, something like that. But otherwise, it's just getting there. We get there. We win the division. We're a wild card. And then we went for a long stretch where we didn't get out of that first round. We definitely didn't make a deep run. And it felt like last year was the best shot we had in a while. We got to the NLCS. We went up against the Dodgers, who we had beat, and then we just laid this ginormous egg. And that stung. But I don't think it stung because we were spoiled.
No.
I don't think it stung because we were supposed to, we felt like, oh, this is the expectation of the Brewers. I think it was the past pain and hardship that we've faced as Brewers fans. To me, this is why this discussion is so siloed. Because the way that I view my fandom towards the Green Bay Packers and how I view my fandom towards the Milwaukee Bucks is so much different than how I view my fandom towards the Milwaukee Brewers.
Why?
Because the Packers have said we are a franchise of success. We pride ourselves on that.
No.
Other teams can say that, but they haven't backed it up as much. Even though we've only had 2 Super Bowls in however many years, I'm aware of that. But the idea, a winning culture has really been created there. That's starting to fade off a little bit with these 7 seeds, which is why we're like, okay, the pressure's on in Green Bay a little bit. But in Milwaukee with the Brewers, they were so bad for so long, and so many people still supported this team. The idea of, are the Brewers going to move? Are the Brewers even worth saving here? And it was, we fought so hard to have this team. This baseball is the Brewers are a Wisconsin's team. The whole state needs this team. Keep them here. It wasn't until 2005, 2006 when we saw, the Braun Fielder Weeks farm system come up that this team kind of got brought back to life. And then the organization made a lot of good moves, and who was running things from Doug Melvin as it went on to Stearns, and then to help me, Matt, who
Arnold.
we have now, Arnold, who we have now.
Mm-hmm.
So they've built success, but you still haven't gotten there. You haven't gotten there at all. And so until you get there, there's no staying humble. There's no humbleness that needs to exist here. And I think that that's a huge point that I don't know if Murph meant to miss or what exactly he was, at what time period he was trying to define. But no, we are not spoiled.
Well, in order to be spoiled, we need championships, and we don't. Let's just use the Brewers as an example here. In order to be spoiled, we also need catastrophic loss after catastrophic loss after catastrophic loss. That would go, now we're not appreciating where we get versus where we are instead of where we're not. The problem with the Brewers is there have not been, since 1983, I would say more than 3 catastrophic losses. And last year's egg in the NLCS isn't one of them. That didn't feel like a catastrophic loss to me at all. It felt like a complete collapse and this is why we can't have nice things. So, Josh, if there are 3 catastrophic losses in our Brewers fandom history since the World Series in 1982, what would they be? There are 3, in my opinion.
I mean, the first to me is the Game 7 of the 2018. That's got to be number
first comes
1.
to mind, right?
Yeah.
The 2018 Game 7 loss, Clayton Kershaw, the Dodgers at then Miller Park, to me is the most catastrophic loss we've experienced in the Brewers franchise since the World Series in 82. A close second to that would be the same against the Cardinals in 2011.
Yeah.
The NLCS there. Why? Because we're that close.
Right. It wasn't as catastrophic of a loss, but just being that close. Absolutely.
Correct. But it still felt like, oh, man, like there it was, right? The other one that really, really sucked, and I think it has more to do with Bob Uecker than it does anything, although it was a bad loss, was the wild card loss in Game 3 against the Mets.
Yep.
That was a team that we felt should have done a lot more in the postseason and just didn't. And then, I mean, the way that ended was awful. Jeff Levering provided us with some of the best sound right before that game ended, and yet it was for a loss. That hurt. Other than those 3, there really aren't those negative core memories with catastrophic losses with the Milwaukee Brewers, which would tell you that we have no ability to be spoiled because we haven't lost a World Series. We haven't lost a dozen or a half dozen National League Championship series. We really don't have much to put a pin in terms of grandiose Brewers success. The reason it feels like a lot of grandiose success is because how bad it was from 83 to 2008. So from 2008, when we started making the playoffs at a semi-regular basis now, from then until this season, that has been a successful span of Brewers baseball. Not every year, but it can't be every year. But in comparison to how bad 82 to 2008 was, other than 92 wins, ironically, in 92, which we brought up earlier, there has not been major accomplishments for us to go, well, we must be spoiled. We need something that comes along with a trophy in a regular way in order for us to go, ooh, guys, careful what you wish for.
So here's me playing devil's advocate. If you and we went through this with the Packers all the time, of old quote unquote Packers fans saying to my generation of Packers fans, you guys don't know how good you have it. I lived through the Packers of the 70s. Oh, you're mad how they're playing now? Oh, you're worried about now? I lived through your nightmares. Okay. Fair. Fine. Same thing can be said for the Brewers.
No. The difference it can't because there's 2 Super Bowl victories since then. They
I understand
had the big wins.
But the big difference between, as you just pointed out, from 1983 to 2008
was no playoffs.
That was a huge stretch of suck, a big old stretch of suck. To where 2008 to 2026, in comparison, has been night and day different. So if you haven't been a fan of all of it, and you're just looking at what the fandom was from that first stretch in comparison to that second stretch, and you could even break it up again and go from, 2012 to 2026, there's been a ton more success. And I think that is that feeds into Murph's argument about being spoiled, just looking at where this organization used to be. From 1983 to 2008, we could have only dreamed about making the postseason multiple years in a row, winning the division 3 times in a row. Oh my God. I can't even fathom that. We can't even get to 500, much less win the division once. Make the postseason as a wild card is a dream. So I get it. In comparison to where we were, yeah, we're spoiled. But we've still fallen short.
And the comparison of the yesteryear Packers fans to today of you don't know how good you have it. Yeah, actually, we do. Super Bowl 31's trophy is at Lambeau Field. 45's trophy is at Lambeau Field. We know exactly how good we have it. The Brewers simply being a playoff team on the regular isn't good enough anymore. And to that reason, I don't know that means we're spoiled. Josh, when we come back, there are many a text message on the Nicolay Law Talking text line that we got to get to. In your response of, are we spoiled? As Wisconsin sports fans, Brewers specifically, per the conversation with Pat Murphy. We'll get to yours next. 414-677-1250. We're live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. It's Inside Wisconsin Sports with Trevor and Josh. So Rhodey drove from home to the bus park and ride where he got on the bus today.
Yeah.
You know how we were able to do that without any knowledge of our parents knowing how fast we were going or if we were doing anything we shouldn't have been? Life 360, buddy. I am going to chew your ass.
Damn, I really
Day
wish,
one of
I really
having
wish
the car.
music wasn't playing. That would have been a great drop.
Oh, that sucks. Yeah, you're right. Almost 20 over. I hope you're listening, Rhodes. This is why we can't have nice things. Congrats, day one. Jeez. Inside Wisconsin Sports, Trevor and Josh, and you and your feedback on the conversation coming from the Malott Meats Morning Mind Dump. Are we spoiled as Brewers fans? Really, let's take the time to break this down, define what spoiled means. Some of you say yes, because you can't use a championship trophy to determine spoiled. There are others that go absolutely not. What do we have to show that we're spoiled? And everywhere in between. 414-677-1250. The Nicolay Law talk and text line. Let's jump in. Jeff from Fox Point says Boston and New England fans are spoiled. Milwaukee/Wisconsin fans are not. The state of Wisconsin has 3 titles since 1990. The Packers twice, the Bucks once. Think about New England, Red Sox, Patriots, Celtics, Bruins, 13 titles. So I don't agree with what Murph said in regards to us being spoiled. That's Jeff from Fox Point. Well played and a great way to start the conversation.
Yeah, although I will say, so does that mean, where's the line? Where's the line of number of championships that need to exist within your state for you to be spoiled? Because, yes, obviously the Boston New England fans, I would say, have the most, at least recently in recent history. But does that mean that anyone under them isn't spoiled? There's a line there.
Well, the 906 comes back, Josh, to your point, with a really good take.
And they say spoiled with championships, no, but spoiled with being consistently very good, yes. Compared to most states, Wisconsin has been spoiled. I have the, quote, I'll send you to Green Bay if you play bad teams, unquote, still in my memory. So the recent competitive teams we have in the state is so awesome. I cross my fingers every year, scared to go back to the way it used to be. So yes, some fans that haven't experienced losing like that are spoiled without even knowing it. It's a really good point.
Spoiled with wins versus more losses than wins.
It goes back to competitive. And he goes on to bring up, look at the Bucks this year. Right? How fun was this Bucks season? Not at all. So imagine if there was a time when that was every year. It's all about expectations, which you say are disappointments waiting to happen. And if you think you're going to be there every year, you're going to be competitive every year, then yeah, you're going to be disappointed and you're going to feel a little spoiled.
But we talk a lot about that. Would we rather be competitive every year with no trophy to show for it, or a trophy to show for it and not competitive for some time? And as a sports fan in Wisconsin, we've experienced having the trophies and then taking a downturn. The Packers weren't great by any means between 31 and 45. Good seasons, but not great.
Yeah, that's true. Good, but not great. The 920. Sorry, go ahead.
As a Wisconsin sports fan, we're not spoiled. As Brewers fans, we currently are maybe a little spoiled with the success of the team. And then a great comparison here. It's the equivalent of being sent to your grandma's for the weekend and eating candy and drinking soda all weekend long. And then you come back home to your stricter family.
Yeah, so they're saying what? It's a little vacay from how things normally are. I guess you could look at it that way. The 262 says, don't you guys realize what Murphy is doing? He's turning the negative attention on the team to himself.
Oh, look over here.
I don't know if that's 100% true. And here's the other thing. The reason why this spoiled thing we're sticking on and why I'm not letting it go is because I'm piling it up. I'm making a file on Murph right now. And this isn't the first time he said something about the fans. I go back to booing McGill and him saying that. That seemed out of place for him. And then he follows it up with this. And so that made me dive a little bit deeper into this and go, okay, how does Murph, is Murph serious? Like, it seems to me like this isn't a, oops, I said something I probably shouldn't have. I mean, he felt a certain way about the fans booing McGill, and now he's essentially saying the same thing about those fans feeling spoiled, being spoiled because they're not happy with a practically 500 record.
Here's a question. Is Pat Murphy spoiled?
No, definitely not.
Why?
Because he's found a way to make a great team out of, I mean, we all know.
Are they great or are they just good? And look at the time span that Murphy's been here in Milwaukee.
They literally won 97 games last year.
I understand, but we have, again, nothing to show for it.
Sure, but I'm saying from his perspective of being a major league manager, he is finding ways to make it with what he's given in comparison to what a lot of other managers have in Major League Baseball.
But is that why he's saying we're spoiled? Because since he's gotten, what is he, 11 years, 12 years with the Brewers now?
Yes.
Something along those lines?
Like that.
Think about that. I was told there would be no math, but that's 2012-ish, 11-ish, 13-ish to today. Look at the success of the Milwaukee Brewers during that time. That's probably, outside of 2011 not being in that, the most successful stretch of Milwaukee Brewers baseball since the late 70s, early 80s. So in his eyes, for us to feel the way we do about not having things like a World Series to show for the success, maybe that's where he's looking at this and going, geez, you guys, like this has been an incredible run.
Yeah, and I'm sure being in his position, he feels that way. I will tell you this, though. I go to the 832, and I think this is important. They say, if we are being honest, yeah, it's great that the Brewers have finally become perennial participants in the postseason, but they haven't won anything outside of a Central Division. Having expectations isn't being spoiled. It's raising the bar and expecting and wanting more. Okay, obviously they've won the Central Division, and then they've gone and they've made it to the NLCS. But you think about hardware, right? We celebrate that 1982 team. They didn't even win it. They got there, and we celebrate them as more than some organizations celebrate actual World Series winning teams, because that's as far as they've gotten. The Brewers since 1982, for all of their success and for all of our spoiled fans, haven't even gotten back to that point. Even if we won a pennant, if we won the National League pennant, we didn't even win the World Series, we would at least have hardware. We would have at least, that was my big thing that I said last year. If they found a way to get past the Dodgers and go to the World Series to face the Blue Jays, if they just get to that point, even if we would have been crushed being that close, right? Absolutely. Oh my God, we made it back and we don't win it. But we would have hardware. We would be able to compare this team to the 1982 team and go, they got more regular season wins, they beat Team Streak, and they made it just as far as the 1982 team. But because they didn't, we still have to go, well, the best team that's ever done it is the 1982 team.
We only have one pennant.
Right. So even if they would have won the NL pennant, that would have been something that we would have been able to say, hey, we're taking home hardware. We didn't even get there.
Is that a championship? Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
We have something to show for it versus, to this texter's point, just the Central Division championship piece that goes up on the wall next to the AL pennant from 82. The 920 says, love Murph, but we're not spoiled. There's just expectations of these teams now after constantly feeling like we're on the cusp of winning and just falling short. And when the team does little to improve over the offseason, they have to be on fire all year. Otherwise, people will boo because there's this feeling that you could do more. Man, that's a great point.
The 906 says, no, you don't. You absolutely do not need championships to be spoiled. Compared to the majority of other franchises, we are spoiled. Once you start having your success as a fan measured by a trophy, that is when you are spoiled. Also, not sure you want to get mad being called spoiled. Every fan wants to be spoiled as a fan.
If it's deservedly so. But that's the question here is, Are we spoiled, and should we even be considered to be spoiled?
Let me ask you this. As a Packers fan, do you consider yourself spoiled?
No.
See, that's where I would disagree.
Spoiled with what? Maybe finish that question, and I'll give you a better answer.
Nope, that's where I'm leaving it. The question of being spoiled, because that's what makes it so difficult, is how you view it. And to the 906's point, it's when you start looking at trophies, that's when it changes.
Why do we say
argument.
that, though? We're not making this up. We're told that no different than the goal of every team, right, is to win the World Series. But they as in owners of teams, or in this case, the president of the Packers, holds the general manager, Russ Ball, Matt LaFleur, holds them accountable to winning championships. So are we spoiled as Packers fans? I would say no. What are we spoiled with? A couple of Super Bowls? Cool. That's great. That doesn't mean, though, that this span since 2010 hasn't been difficult, especially after getting back to the NFC Championship numerous times. We haven't even made it back, to your point, Josh. Now, the span of time has been shorter since 82, sure. But that doesn't mean that there's not this expectation. We named the damn town Title Town. And I understand that sometimes comes across as entitled town. But the expectation has been set based on championship caliber teams. There's no expectation set in Milwaukee. We can't possibly be spoiled because we don't have anything to compare it to other than simply getting there one time.
Sure. I do think there's an expectation that was set with the Brewers, though.
The expectation to do what?
The expectation is to be competitive for the postseason. I mean, the amount of times that the Brewers have made it to the postseason, we forget that after Counsell left, like there were a lot of people thinking, Murph's a hold me over. This team is going to have at least a down year. We talk about the Bucks going you can't keep pushing all the chips in with Giannis and saying this team needs a down year to be able to revamp. The Brewers for a long time have stayed competitive. They have not had that we need to tank year. And I understand baseball is a little bit different than the other sports, but I think that is another reason why we look at the Packers. How long have the Packers been in that position of being that competitive team? When was the last time the Packers had a 4-12 season to get a top 5 pick? Right? Didn't we just talk about AJ Hawk was that fifth pick?
We had a first round pick in the top 10 in 2006, and this got us in trouble earlier. It was 2009 when we had 2 first round picks. It was BJ Raji, I believe, and then back up in to get Clay Matthews.
Correct.
Boy, if that's wrong, they're going to tell us.
Oh, they will.
Here's another good one from the 414. Here's the other thing. Why are we raising the bar knowing that due to baseball payroll issues, we will never stand a chance against the big boys' money? Well, if that's the case, then it's a moot point. If that's just how we're going to fan and be like, can't win the World Series based on the amount of money that other teams are spending that we can't. So by golly, let's just be happy with maybe getting to the NLCS. I can't fan that way. And I'm not telling you how to fan, but I can.
The 414 says, if a team gets progressively better, how do you get mad? Well, simple. Because either they're getting progressively better until they win the whole damn thing, or they stop getting progressively better. That's the point. When you make it to the NLCS, when you continue getting better, right? And you made it to that point, if you don't get better past that point, now you're falling off. We saw that with the Packers. We thought when Jordan Love came in, it was going to be, all right, a down year. And then they blew it out of the water. They almost beat the 49ers. We almost went back to the conference championship. It was okay. Here we go. And then they fell off. And then it was 7 seed. And so that was, they were getting progressively better, and then they stopped. We're looking at this Brewers organization right now who have been getting better, and better, made it to the NLCS, and now we're seeing other teams have been getting better, and better. And our frustrations with this Brewers team is, we didn't come out and prove we're getting better and better and better. On paper, we didn't prove, hey, we got a team that's going to blow these other teams out of the water. We traded Freddie Peralta, and we got some guys. We have a bag of prospects that we're going, look out 2027. That doesn't make me feel like we're getting progressively better in 2026.
A lot of good points streaming in. 414-677-1250. The Nicolay Law Talk and text line. But at this point, we're kind of getting to the spot, Josh, where now we have to start defining the word spoiled with just taking it at a 30,000-foot level, which is probably a cue to us that it's time to move on because have the Packers peaked? Are they in their prime?
Oh, here we go.
Are they? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This is where we're at.
Yeah, yeah, that was a fun one.
Ask other teams if we're spoiled with Hall of Fame quarterbacks. I think the argument is done. But one could argue that there may even be some things in this segment that we want to take back. 414-677-1250, the Nicolay Law Talk and text line. It's a Take Back Tuesday. We'll share with you any takebacks that we may have. Share with us if you have a take back. And I'm curious if some others, like Pat Murphy, does he take back saying this whole spoiled thing? Because it has certainly created a conversation in the state of Wisconsin in regards to Brewers fandom. 414-677-1250. It's Inside Wisconsin Sports with Trevor and Josh.
The Queen of Spice is heating up breakfast at Wendy's with new items like their jalapeno sausage, egg and cheese biscuit, or a jalapeno bacon, egg and cheese biscuit, and a spicy side twist of jalapeno bacon seasoned potatoes. It's available for a limited time, so get a bite while you can and spice up your morning at Wendy's.
There's a big take back for you, Josh, according to the Nicolay Law talk and text line, 414-677-1250, on a Take Back Tuesday on Inside Wisconsin Sports.
Yeah,
you mentioned it.
Right.
It was just yesterday that you said, in short, that what Murph said about this whole spoiled thing was very Doc Rivers-ish. So, Josh, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I'm taking it back. Listen, the frustration I had with Murph in that moment made me feel very compared to when Doc would talk about stuff that wasn't just like related to the team and the things he was saying that I would immediately question, and it just added fuel to that fire. But making that comparison is just wrong. I'm taking it back. I mean, I straight up was begging Doc Rivers to be fired, and I'm the opposite with Pat Murphy, regardless of how I feel about the comments he's made this season in regards to the fans. He's still absolutely just miles above anyone else in regards to coaching in the state of Wisconsin right now. And I shouldn't have said that. I'm taking that back. You're right.
So the funny part is this text comes from the 414 from the very same person that shared with us that they're eating these low-calorie, tasteless rice cakes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what he used is the word eating, as in he's still doing it.
Yeah.
Not ate, not tried, eating.
Yeah. And he says the guy eating his low-calorie rice cakes from last week, which makes me think he's still trying to finish the same rice cake from last week because
well,
it's so terrible.
Back. You should probably take that back too. Josh, do you think, hypothetically speaking, at any point, I've never seen it before, but I'm curious, does Shams come out and take back anything? Or is this like a kid that got caught with his hands in the cookie jar and you just double and triple and quadruple down instead of going, I wish it, because Giannis came out and said, I take back not shutting this down earlier in the season. Does Shams at any point take back? Okay.
He doesn't. He doesn't take it back for a few reasons. First, because his job depends on it. If he comes out and admits that he was wrong, he's admitting that he's no longer credible. So he has to keep fighting that fight. That's why it's so the thing that Shams should be doing is putting down the shovel. I understand that maybe he's dug himself in a hole, but he just keeps digging himself deeper. The more that he puts this out, he's creating more and more questions about his reliability as a source because of the sources that he claims to have and being able to say per source, and the amount of people that are now saying, okay, yeah, so this is just working for ESPN and needing clickbait and needing to draw up stories. The more that those come out, the worse his image looks. But never will he come out, at least not for a very long time, if ever, will he come out and say, yeah, I mean, clearly I was wrong about that. Giannis proved that. That won't happen.
Any other takebacks on your side?
No, that was it. Mostly was I just had to get rid of the Doc Rivers comment, Pat Murphy comparison. That was bad.
The only other one I wrote down was, and listen, I know Venezuela won and Churio is a part of the team, and that was a very amazing moment for them as a group of individuals from a country that has not had the best of years. But knowing that he got hurt, does a guy like Churio, or maybe go 30,000 foot level on this, does any guy that played in some sort of other thing, like the Pro Bowl as an example, would they take it back? And I wonder, just in this specific scenario, would Churio take back playing in the WBC, even though they won, because look at what it's caused?
No, I don't think they would. Just based on how a lot of the players talked about the World Baseball Classic and what it meant to them.
What if they don't win it? Maybe then.
I still question it, though.
Almost as if a trophy qualifies on what was worth it and what wasn't. And I have no further questions, Your Honor.
I'm going to read one more to kind of put this to bed. I love this from the 608 because this is a fun discussion. This, at the end of the day, is something to discuss. And a lot of people that are saying, like, why do you guys keep talking about? Well, first of all, there was no game yesterday, and the draft was, over the weekend. But more importantly, I love this from the 608 that said, I think beginning the season 8-2 and the team looking similar to how it played last year skewed our expectations. Without Vaughn, Churio, Priester, and eventually Yelich, had we started 5-5, being 14-13 would feel a whole lot different. Is that not true? Probably.
Mm-hmm.
It's the fact that we started hot. We came out going, this is exactly how we finished last season. Let's keep it going. Not the other way around.
Josh, you just mentioned it, that there was a text that said conversations like this ruin social media. And get off my lawn.
Yeah, thanks for listening, though.
Appreciate you coming back, too, especially after you turned it off. That was awesome. Awfully nice of you.
Appreciate it.
Hey, when Goody talked before the draft,
we
talk about this a lot. What can we believe and what can't we believe? And how much is subterfuge and what's, like the things that the GM just needs to say. Well, Josh and I went back and retranscribed Goody's presser prior to the draft when he said his team was ready. And now we're going to find a nugget or two or three that goes, wait a minute, what he said actually happened. He may have accidentally or on purpose, whatever, played his hand. It's really fascinating to go back and go, oh, that actually was meaningful. Or I wonder what that actually played out for him. 414-677-1250, the Nicolay Law talk and text line. We're going to do that next. We're going to break down Goody's presser before the draft. And we're also going to check in with our guy, Wes Hodkiewicz from Packers.com at about 8:25 and hear how it's been in the building since the draft and his thoughts on how the Packers did. Only 6 picks, which is the lowest ever tied in franchise history. So how's that going over at 1265? We'll find out. We're live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios. We're powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook, and we are inside Wisconsin sports with Trevor and Josh. Stay here. We're going to break down Goody when we get back. I am an eternal optimist. So please, God, don't tell me that you're an eternal pessimist.
I like to say I'm a realist.
Oh, it's great. We're going to get along great. This is going to be great.
This is Inside Wisconsin Sports with Trevor and Josh.
Crowd is here, about to blow, waiting for me to start the show. Out the curtain, lights go up, I'm home. Whoa!
I think we try to go into this always taking the best player available and letting the needs kind of subconsciously, help build our board. Kind of feel like that's kind of what happened. But, I'm probably going to try to get to 20-some picks next year, so I don't think it's going to change really the way I look at things. This was a unique year, and certainly wasn't lost to me as we went through it that, that we ended up with 6 and not more. I didn't think the opportunities to move back and add picks meant a lot of sense for us. And the times that we moved up, I thought it did. So I think it was just a unique year that way. But I do feel like we did some things with our roster that give me some, peace.
That's Brian Gutekunst after the draft's conclusion on how the board fell and maybe why it fell that way. We're going to hear more from him in this very segment. What's up, Wisconsin? Welcome in Hour 3 of Inside Wisconsin Sports. Trevor Thomas, Josh Albrecht.
Hi.
Live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios and powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. So Goody talks a lot about letting the board fall the way it falls and taking the best player available. He also noted in his post-draft press conference that drafting later in the rounds didn't necessarily seem to make sense. Well, here's what he said about those late rounds before the draft began, which maybe will tell us why he was comfortable trading those 2 picks to go up into the 6th and get a kicker.
The last couple of drafts, I think it's been this way just because of COVID, because of NIL. There's just a little bit different player that we're getting as far as there's a little bit higher of an age player that we're getting. Players now have an opportunity to go back and play another year for money that they wouldn't have done in the past. I think the young players who are going to go at the top of the draft, I think they're still coming out. I think very few of those guys go back. But I think a lot of the guys that are mid-round to late-round type picks, look at that as a really good option to go back, play, continue to develop, and they can make money at it. So I think there's a lot more 23, 24, and then 25-year-olds kind of in the middle to the lower rounds of the last couple of drafts. We'll probably see a little bit more of that in the next couple of years. But the COVID years kind of is phasing out. So the 7th-year senior is we're getting less of those, which is good.
Okay, so then, Josh, you found a clip from the post-draft presser that almost doubled down on this.
Along those lines, why was he worth trading up for?
I think it was the way the board fell, quite frankly, more than anything. We obviously liked him quite a bit. And I think he has a good chance to be a good kicker in the National Football League. But the way the board was falling, where we were sitting in the 7th round, I didn't feel great about what we were going to have to select during those 2 picks. And, didn't feel great that he would be there then. So we made the decision to do that.
So it's all there. He said exactly what played out in the press conference before the draft. We knew going into this draft that it was an old draft. 5, 6, 7-year players that came from the COVID era that got that bonus year, and then they redshirted or whatever the case may be. The Packers have been the youngest team in the NFL the 3 previous seasons with an average age of 25.
Mm-hmm.
All 3 of those years.
Yep.
So drafting someone that's older, specifically that overstayed their welcome in college football because they could, did not interest Goody at all.
Do you think that this is because he also talked as we played in the Open about how he thinks he's going to have like 20 picks next year. And obviously it's joking, but we know with all the comp picks and everything that I'd be stunned if they're going to have 6 picks next year. Right.
Well, they have 11 right now.
I'm saying like at the end of the 2027 draft, if they drafted 6 players, I'd be shocked. But do you think that there's something happening here, to Goody's point, to where the idea of finding a diamond in the rough in that 7th round, in that last round, taking and why not just take a flyer? Are those picks going to lose more and more value as things change at the collegiate level?
It's a completely different person. And he said it in the clips that we just heard. The junior that would have come out in the draft, that was that diamond in the rough, 4, 5, 6th rounder. isn't coming out into the draft anymore. And so instead of getting with an NFL team and developing in the NFL, they're staying in college, maybe or maybe not continuing to develop while getting paid. And that absolutely will reflect itself in the NFL draft. Now, as things change at the collegiate level, and as some things like a 5-year window of playing time come into play during the 2028 season potentially, all of that changes again. But to your point now, this is the way it is, especially in a draft like this year's, where there weren't a lot of super duper talented guys that the Packers felt like they needed to hold on to 2 7th-round picks for.
Yeah, it's just, and if you go back and you listen to his entire post presser, it really seemed like they had a general idea of who they wanted, and they were willing to get those guys. He was very thankful that DDS fell to him in the 4th. You know, he's trying to trade back into the 3rd to get him, and then luckily he fell to him in the 4th. But it seemed like he was essentially saying, yeah, later rounds, no, there was nothing we saw that was going to be of value, which is kind of crazy to think about.
So to the 920's point on the Nicolay Law talk-in text line, that number 414-677-1250. The 920 says, you bet I have thoughts on this draft. Gave up 2 picks for a kicker? Really? Didn't we get burned a few years ago drafting a kicker? Well, 2 things. Number 1, those picks weren't worthy of anything to the Green Bay Packers. And so they had a board. They knew that if they could get this kicker, they wanted to, and they did. Number 2, to your point of getting burned a few years ago by drafting a kicker, Goody was actually asked this very question in his post-draft presser. And he came out and said, sure, but that doesn't mean you stop trying. And I thought that was a great answer to that point.
Mm-hmm.
So pre-draft, he also came out and talked about the need for a pure nose tackle on defense. The conversation was whether Javon Hargrave was going to be able to be that nose tackle or an edge rusher, and how much diversity he has in terms of playing in different areas on the defensive line. The nose tackle, though, did come up in conversation, and we drafted one. Here's Goody talking about that before the draft.
I do think that there's probably a little bit more probably appetite for a pure nose, because some of the snaps we're going to play you're going to have that, maybe we wouldn't have had that with Jeff. So again, I think we have a lot of guys in house that we're pretty excited about, Stackhouse, Ford, Brinson, that have that kind of size that can do some of those things. But, Hargrave and Wyatt are so versatile. They're able to kind of go up and down the line of scrimmage, which is nice.
So yeah, they can go up and down the line of scrimmage, and he said it before the draft. We need a pure nose tackle. Well, success.
Mm-hmm.
Chris McClellan, defensive tackle from Missouri with the number 77 pick, which, by the way, they took another late round pick and traded up to get him. And Goody told us that was going to be so. So that's 2.
Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts?
I mean, I'm just kind of analyzing this whole thing, and I mean, we've always said, especially when it comes to the draft, that I feel like Goody's playing chess when the rest of us aren't even playing checkers. But does it not seem like he knew even before the 6th round, like he was done? like hearing this now and comparing the pre-draft to the post-draft and then seeing what happened in the draft, I'm looking back and I'm going, okay, so the second cornerback we took, was he even paying attention? Was he already checked out? It almost made it seem like as soon as he got DDS, he was like, okay, that's the last guy I wanted. And then the rest of it was just flyers from that point, when usually I feel like into the 6th round, even there's still guys. And then maybe the 7th, you're taking flyers. It seemed like even in the 5th, that's why I was willing to trade a 5th, because I don't know that there was anyone else on the board that was a need for him.
Well, not so fast on the Flyers when it comes to the offensive line. Remember, Goody talked about, and we talked about prior to even the press conference that Brian had before the draft, on how we thought there needed to be more on the offensive line. And we had heard them talk that they were pretty solidified with the starting 5 on the offensive line. He doubled and tripled down on that and also was happy with the depth. Yet all of us still expected that there would be some sort of offensive line addition to the room from the draft. And here's what Goody had to say about that prior to.
Yeah, no, I think I feel really good about it. I mean, obviously, we got a couple of guys coming off injury. Zach's coming off an injury and Jacob's coming off an injury. But, I really like our starting 5. And then, I thought, Jacob did a really good job in that last game at center. So I feel really good about his ability. And we're going to get Glover back as well. Dominic Jennings. And Kennard, we brought Kennard back. So I feel really good about, our whole group and the competition that's in that room. We're always going to try to look to add, to the offensive line. There's only so many big guys in the world that can play at a high level. So, but no, I feel good about it.
And then they took one offensive lineman,
Jager Burton,
and they took him in the 5th round.
So Goody told us exactly to expect that, though. He's happy with the starting 5. He's happy with the depth. We're getting guys back from injury, and we'll look to add. So to me, that said, what else did he say? We know they need to add cornerbacks. Well, they did that with their first pick and then again in the later rounds, to your point. We knew he needed to add a pure nose tackle. Did that in the 2nd or 3rd round with the 2nd pick that the Packers had. Wanted to add to the offensive line room. Did that. So as much subterfuge as we all kind of watch these press conferences with a grain of salt and go, okay, what are you doing here? What are you saying? What are you not saying? Goody said a lot. And then, Josh, for the Packers fans afterwards to agree that 6 picks for the Packers, which is the fewest in franchise history, tied for the fewest, for them to go, oh, Goody cooked. What a great draft. I mean, I have not seen a lot of people, if not more than just a small handful, say that the Packers had a bad draft.
Yes, I agree with you. There are a few, like the 920 here on the Nikolai Law Fan Talking text line, who says, my only worry is, why did all these guys that were supposed to go, supposedly so good, fall to us? Why didn't any other GMs think they were good and worth drafting?
Well, Goody talked about that. It's needs versus best player available. And so who someone else had in terms of needs maybe moved to get that need based on that best player being available. No different than the Packers did twice. Moved up twice.
I am in agreement with you that I think that it was a great draft. I thought, especially without having a 1st round pick, to see what the Packers got out of that draft, I was very satisfied with. I do have to say, though, that I was all here for the bites of the apple and taking flyers and chances on depth and looking at and then hearing what he said before and after and seeing how he just essentially threw away the 2 7th round picks to get a kicker, which wasn't even in the conversation when we were talking to anyone pre-draft of, and then maybe they get a kicker. Like, we were looking at backup QBs, if anything. I mean, it really shouted to me that the bottom of this draft was so bad. So bad that a guy that's literally made his career on finding diamonds in the rough in the later rounds went, nah, not even worth taking a shot.
We're good.
I mean, that's saying something to me more about the draft than it is about Goody and the Packers and what they decided to do. I'm just hoping that, that was the right move.
Well, hopefully it's saying something to all of these dudes that are staying in college. They're chasing the money versus chasing the opportunity to grow and become something in the NFL. I talked to Goody years ago about this, that it was starting to rear its head where guys that should be coming out of college aren't.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are NFL caliber worthy people choosing to stay in college because they're going to potentially make more money than they will in their first rookie deal. That's bonkers.
Yeah.
And that's going to hurt the NFL. And this year is an example of that, to the point where, to your point, Josh, he punted, which is ironic because we punted on 2 picks to go and get a special teams kicker.
Yeah, punted to get a kicker.
Funny how life shakes down. Now, interestingly enough, other than the dude that's got his undies in a bundle about trading up to draft a kicker because that bit us in the ass one other time, Have you heard anybody else, Josh, really go, really a kicker? Or do we all have the memory of, yeah, a kicker's been a problem for the Packers the past few seasons, and we got to keep trying to find the next Mason Crosby?
I think there were a decent amount of people that were confused by the pick. I just think that more than anything, it was the expectation. Very few people, if anyone, was predicting that the Packers were going to be drafting a kicker in this draft, period. And the fact that you found out without having a first round pick, knowing that they only went into the draft with 8, that they were going to leave with 6 guys, and one of them was going to be a kicker
and be happy with it,
was, I think, more confusing or shocking than anything.
Well, let's check in with the guy that's in the building, Wes Hodkiewicz from Packers.com. He joins us next as we continue to break down what the NFL draft meant to the Packers this year. Only 6, a number of different potential voids were filled, and there are some that weren't. So what do we think internally? Wes Hodkiewicz knows. He'll join us next on Inside Wisconsin Sports with Trevor and Josh, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Inside Wisconsin Sports with Trevor and Josh, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. I don't like talking over that part of that song.
Nope, that's fair.
Sacrilegious. Joining us now on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network guest hotline, powered by Gruber Law. One call, that's all. Packers.com. Wait a minute. He got a promotion. I'm going to let him introduce himself. This is Wes Hodkowitz from the Packers.
No.
But I feel like there's a new title here.
Oh, man. Yeah. So I am still the senior writer, but I'm also the manager of digital content strategy now, Trevor. And if I would be able to wake up earlier, you'd be able to see my face blushing right now.
Congrats, dude.
Why are you ashamed? Why are you ashamed to...
I don't like doing the titles thing. I mean, Trevor's known me long enough. I'm just a lonely little writer boy. That's not my world.
Hashtag
but I
humble.
appreciate it. I'm super grateful. Super grateful. Like I don't want to be, flippant about it. It's an awesome thing. I really appreciate my colleagues and my bosses here that made that happen. But yeah, at the end of the day, you guys know me. I'm the writer.
Well, look how far we've come from covering the Green Bay Bullfrogs and a missing Margaritas Cup.
Yes, exactly, bro. We tried our best.
Wes Hodkowitz from Packers.com. All right, Wes, we're talking about the subterfuge, or maybe the lack thereof, of Goody talking to us prior to the draft and how much of what he said actually came true, because he got the pure nose tackle he said he thought we needed. He felt good about the offensive line, but we added a guy to that room. Obviously, the CB room needed more bodies, which we accomplished as well. And he said numerous times, both before the draft and after, that the late round, specifically the 7th, didn't matter in this draft. So internally, how's it going?
Very perceptive of you, Trevor. And that was one of my main takeaways when the draft ended on Saturday night. We actually did our little 3 things video, and that was the point I made. I don't want to ever hear anybody say that nobody says anything in pre-draft press conferences, because Brian Gutekunst, in some ways, he didn't tell you the players they were going after, but he did give you the map in terms of where this team was headed and what they were looking for. He talked about the need to add multiple cornerbacks to that room, to add competition there. They did that. He talked about, potentially later in the rounds, not really knowing what was going to be there. So what happens? 7th round, they had the 3rd to last pick in the 7th round, and by some stroke of magic, they throw some fairy dust on there or something, and were able to send both of those picks to John Schneider in Seattle for the last pick of the 6th round. Got great value there, and were able to draft Trey Smack, who ended up being the only kicker that was taken in this year's draft. Gutekunst explained that afterwards, saying, hey, we didn't feel good about him being there in that latter half of the 7th round. They wanted to go up there and get him. So this isn't the deepest draft the Packers have ever had. In fact, I think it's the shallowest in terms of numbers in the last 20 years. But I feel like the Packers checked a lot of major boxes without having to necessarily reach for value or try to reach for a need. They addressed it as the board came to them, and they're sitting in a good spot right now, I think.
Josh West just brought up another great point. Goody talked in the pre-draft presser about how he was aware that Seattle needed more picks.
Yeah.
Right?
What a genius.
Made it happen.
Incredible. He sure did. I think what you brought up there, though, is an interesting point, too. When you just look at the numbers, and for a while, Wes, I was trying to figure out, what is this more showing? Is it showing what Goody's needs were, or just how rough maybe this year's draft was? And I think his post-draft comments of kind of how the board was and not seeing, just flat out admitting, yeah, there was nothing we really saw in the 7th round that was worth sticking around for, made it seem like, yeah, this draft, to your point, this was a very, very light draft in terms of talent that I think the Packers saw any value in.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, the way that you can kind of see how that board falls, because sometimes I remember vividly back in, I think it was 2014, Ted Thompson talking about the fact that they drafted Jeff Janis, and it didn't sound like Janis was going to sign with them as a UDFA, so they kind of moved forward and just took him because they felt like that was a player they wanted. I think a couple of years ago that happened with another prospect that was going to sign somewhere else, and then Green Bay ended up bringing him in. So you don't know exactly what those conversations are like. Are there guys that they felt good about that they were going to get as college free agents, that they didn't have to invest that 7th rounder? But I think the one thing you and I can both agree on is when you look at that past 200 sort of board, Trey Smack was right at the top of that for Green Bay. That was the guy that they felt like they needed to go get. They felt like he was going to give them the most value there. And the other aspect of it, too, that I think you have to consider with this draft was it's not just about, okay, well, it's a weak draft. I think the Packers found the pockets of players where they thought they could get the most value. And we heard Brian talk about it at the end of night 2 with Chris McClellan out of Missouri, the defensive tackle. That was a guy that they had kind of considered even in the second round. And then he ended up being there in the third. Dennis Sutton, the pass rusher out of Penn State, that was a guy that Green Bay was trying to trade back up for into the third round. They weren't able to make that trade happen, but yet they were able to find him in the fourth. So where the Packers value players, I think they got the most value that they could get out of that. And the other thing I got to tip my hat to with Gutekunst as well, particularly with McClellan, he accurately saw where the defensive linemen were going to start going off the board there in the third round and moved up to get his guy. With getting McClellan at 77, I don't know if you guys saw that, but right after that, 2 more of them came off the board before where Green Bay would have originally picked. So, I think Brian made the draft board work for him, and he used the assets available to him to try to put together the best class under some adverse situations and circumstances this year.
Wes, you just said it right there. You talked about him filling the holes necessary on this team. Going into the draft, there was a lot of discussion of bites of the apples and getting guys just for depth because of the amount of injuries that the Packers suffered last season. However, we also know from letting some guys go that there were some holes that are needed for starters. How much playing time do you think that these core guys that were drafted this season are going to get?
The world is their oyster, my friend. I mean, I think all these guys, there's an opportunity there for them to show out in training camp and potentially compete for a spot right away. I mean, even you look at like a 6th-round pick like Damani Jackson, this is a guy that was a 5-star recruit at the time that he committed to USC, one of the top recruits in the entire country. He actually ends up transferring over to Alabama. Like, things go pretty well for him, but there were some setbacks this past season. Obviously, it was talked about in the presser afterwards and getting benched temporarily for some of the on-field things that were happening, not really playing to what they needed. But then he ended up coming back and I think playing in the final stretch there and in the playoffs. So all these guys have the moxie for it, have the temperament, and have the makeup. I think what's really intriguing, particularly at cornerback, this is the first time since 2021, almost 5 years, that Green Bay has actually drafted cornerbacks outside of the 7th round. You'd have to go all the way back to 21 with Stokes and John Charles for guys that they took in those earlier rounds. And why does that matter? Well, it matters because when you do have injuries, when something happens like Nate Hobbs happened last year, or you have guys go down throughout the course of the year, you're not having to necessarily count on the undrafted guys from the practice squad. You're not having to count on having to bring on, a Trayvon Diggs the last week of the season. You need to have that depth to be ready for whatever's coming. Oh, and then by the way, these guys also don't have to feel like they have to come in and play right away, because there is a Keyshawn Nixon, there is a Carrington Valentine, there is a Benjamin St-Juste. They have options. Brian is never going to paint himself into a corner. He's always going to give himself options, and I think they successfully achieved that over the last 2 months.
Wes Hodkiewicz from Packers.com joining us on Inside Wisconsin Sports with Trevor and Josh. Speaking of options, have you seen LVN? Is he busy on Friday? Where are we at with that 5th-year option?
We're going to have to see. Brian was asked about it again. This is where it gets so tricky now, though, right? Because if you go back 10 years ago, the 5th-year option was only guaranteed for injury. Now it's also guaranteed for skill. So that means if you pick up that 5th-year option right now, that guy's contract for 2027, 27, it's fully guaranteed. He gets every penny of it. That's created a bind for a lot of these teams, especially as this rookie wage scale has worked its way up. So it's not as easy of a decision as it once was. And the other thing you got to remember, too, a couple years back, they didn't pick up the 5th-year option on Jordan Love. They ended up working an extension with him, a 1-year extension, to add a year on top of that. So all those options are on the table. The one thing I know for certain as it stands today is Lucas Van Ness has a very important role to play for this team in 2026, especially with Micah Parsons seeing when he's going to get back out on the field. He is going to be the guy that Green Bay needs to feature with this pass rush. There's going to be these young guys are going to be rotating in, but without Kingsley Enagbare, without Rashawn Gary, he's the guy with the most experience right now as a defensive pass rusher in terms of who's healthy for Green Bay this summer. So Very curious to see how it all plays out. But Lucas Van Ness is definitely a guy that Green Bay wants to feature in this defense and hopes that, that he reaches that next step.
All right, Wes. So the draft is done. They filled those holes. Now looking at the Packers roster and what they need to focus on, what other holes, if any, are left? We talked to Bill Huber last week, and he said he was looking at, all right, what about some more backups, some backup running back, backup QB? What about some of those roles, and when do the Packers worry about those?
Well, it's fascinating, right? Because there was, out of this draft class, don't look at the numbers they took. There is only one offensive player that they drafted, and it was on the offensive line, with Jager Burton. So that leaves them with some question marks there a little bit because of the departures at running back, because of the departures at receiver. And that's where I feel like the biggest opportunity is going to be for some of these practice squad guys. It's going to be the biggest opportunity for some of the undrafted guys. I felt like I talked about it weeks leading up to the draft. If Green Bay didn't draft a quarterback, this had to be one of the more enticing QB2 spots for someone to potentially land as a college free agent. I think they have some intriguing guys at tight end. I think that was the one position when it ended that I was kind of like, man, it would have been nice to add another tight end to that room, just because, again, I think all these guys are free agents after next year, although it stands to reason that Tucker Kraft probably won't be going anywhere. But still, you want to be able to have some depth there and have some guys that you can develop behind them. So, yeah, that's going to be the biggest question. And the other thing, too, keep in mind, as of Monday, the unrestricted free agency window closes. So any free agent that you sign now, veteran, no longer counts towards the compensatory process for next year. And Brian has been active with that in the past. He has, when that window closes, he's signed guys in the past. So depending on how they feel about the roster, where they need competition, or in training camp if somebody goes down, that could also be an area where Green Bay looks to add a veteran.
Well, it's not like we need more compensatory picks or picks in general next year, 11 plus in counting based on what happens in the next week. Yet it's part of that free. What's that?
It'll be fun. Yeah, it's gonna be. Yeah, it'll be the opposite of this year's draft.
Exactly, it will. So between free agency and the draft, there's been a lot of bolstering of the new 3-4 defense that Jonathan Gannon is coming in with. If we just spent a little time looking at the front four, even though it's a 3-4, it's either going to be DVS or Barron Sorrell, Javon Hargrave, Devontae Wyatt, and then LVN, knowing that Parsons is going to start on the pup for all intents and purposes. Right. The backfield got stronger with Cisse, and obviously we have some decent linebackers now with the addition of Zaire Franklin and Cooper coming back and Javon Bullard. So would you say, Wes, going into this season, that of anything that's sound on the three phases of football, the defense appears to be fairly put together?
Yeah, it does. And they do still have some questions there. Who's going to be the next man up behind Bullard in the slot or in the back end? The safety, those top three, but who's going to emerge behind them? Katan Oladapo, the sixth rounder from a couple of years ago, has started to play some of the slot too. Could one of these corners fill in that spot? It really comes down to you're not going to get through an entire season with your starting 11, right? That's just not the way this game works. So who's going to be those guys that are going to provide that depth? And I think when you look at the front, those first few weeks, depending again on what happens with Parsons, never hold anything against him, right? Maybe the guy ends up being ready for the start of the season. But let's say just for giggles here, he isn't week one. That's a big role for whatever rookie or second-year player is stepping into that spot opposite of Lucas Van Ness. That's one area where Green Bay really is going to need someone to really solidify it. So fascinating to watch. It will be an interesting camp battle at so many of these spots. But defensively, for Jonathan Gannon coming in year one, I think this thing is set up so well for him to have success and to have his scheme work with the talent that Green Bay has returning.
Totally agree, Wes. Hey, speaking of Gannon, he exists, right? Like he is a person there. I'd love to get his thoughts on the draft picks that happened for the Green Bay Packers. Any word on when we might see him?
I would assume that'll be here in the next couple of weeks or days or whatever, because, now we're going into OTAs, and we always, at the very least, end up talking to the coaches at some point during that stretch. So I would imagine, I have not heard anything, but I would imagine that that'll be a conversation that we're going to be having here shortly, also with Cam Acord taking over with the special teams. A lot of interesting coaches that were added to this year's staff. Noah Pauly's another one that I'm really high on, the new receivers coach who actually coached Christian Watson at North Dakota State. So those interviews, when they finally happen, are going to be fascinating. They're going to be intriguing because in addition to just learning more about these people, seeing how they can take what was a really good, really talented football team last year that dealt with some injuries, that dealt with some second half issues, If they can clean up those two type of areas, and obviously always easier said than done, but if those things can get hashed out, I mean, you're looking at a team right now that's ready to compete for a championship.
Wes Hodkiewicz, Packers.com, Inside Wisconsin Sports with Trevor and Josh. One more, Wes, before we let you go. Goody has been vocal about how college football and what's happening there is hurting the NFL and specifically the draft process. I know that teams in college aren't supposed to call players on other teams and tamper, correct? Do you think there's going to come a time? Yeah, legally, whatever. Do you think there's going to be a time, and this is just futuristic, but I can't get over it, when NFL teams start talking to agents in college and go, listen, tell him to get out of there and get into the NFL draft? Because years like this and seeing what NFL teams are doing at the end of the draft is almost a little scary for development and making sure that the Packers, who love young players, can stay young instead of these old fuddy-duddies that are in the 6th and 7th round.
That's a great point, Trevor. Do you remember, this is now goes showing our age a little bit, but do you remember when the NBA, obviously there was the Sean Kemp high school kids, Kobe Bryant high school kids could go directly to the league, but there was sort of this inflection point in like 2001, 2002 where all these high school kids were going and dudes were like, second round picks, undrafted, and these guys already don't have any college eligibility, no chance to develop, and they're already out of the system, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a part of me that worries that that's kind of what we're entering with the NCAA. I don't think it's for a reason of guys leaving too early. I think it's a reason of, okay, there's going to be certain guys. I mean, look at Mike Washington, right? The running back from Arkansas. He was at 3 different schools. He was at Buffalo, he was at New Mexico State, and he was at Arkansas. And every single level, he stepped his game up, and he made himself into a 4th-round pick. But there are also examples of guys, I think this happens a lot in college basketball too now, where they move around so often. They don't find a home. They don't really develop, and they're not 5-star athletes. They're not 4-star athletes, and they just kind of wash out of the system. That's what I worry about, is that now, you're always going to have the dudes that commit to Alabama and we're top 100, 5-star guys. But you're going to also have some of these guys that don't have those intangibles but want to think that they do. And next thing you know, their NFL career is non-existent. They've wasted their college eligibility. That's the part I worry about the most. I think the cream will rise to the top. If a guy's a talented player, keeps his nose clean. If he does the right things, the NFL is going to find him because they're going to value that type of character. They're going to value that type of athletic ability, and they will believe that they can develop it from there. But it's the rest of those guys. That's what makes me worried because there's so much movement now at the NIL level. And I think, it makes jobs more complicated for scouts, but that's their job, right? I mean, they got to communicate more. They have to work with their regions better. You have to do all that type of stuff. But we're also talking about young men who are still working through the process of life that have a great opportunity, and you don't want to see them wasted.
The always grateful Packers.com, Wes Hodkiewicz, not so closet WWE fan. Are you acknowledging the OTC? That's all I need to know.
I have to now, right? We're back. We're back to the beginning. We're back at the start of the board. Do not,
you have no choice.
Collect $200. Yeah, we got to do it.
I'm annoyed too. All right, Wes. Good to chat with you as always, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, guys. Nice chatting.
Thanks,
Bye.
Wes.
Wes Hodkiewicz, Wisconsin Sports Radio Network guest hotline, powered by Gruber Law. One call. That's all. We'll cross over with our friends from 9 to noon with John Kuhn and Rami Makloff. When we get back, we're live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. It's Inside Wisconsin Sports with Trevor and Josh.
Wendy's new cookie dough frosty fusion is the ultimate feel-good snack. Everything from the cookie dough to the brownie batter sauce was made for max happiness. Go grab a new cookie dough frosty fusion today and get that dopamine flowing. For the ultimate feel-good snack, it's got to be Wendy's.
9 to noon with John Kuhn and Rami Makloft up next here on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network. Trevor Thomas, Josh Albrecht, inside Wisconsin Sports, welcoming in John Kuhn. John, welcome home. You're back in Wisconsin, yeah?
Yeah. How we doing, boys? How we make it through the weekend?
We made it through perfectly, splendidly. I can only speak for myself, Josh.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, especially the draft didn't hurt. And seeing you walk on that stage, that was nice too, buddy. How was it?
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun, guys. I got to tell you, the draft is a well-orchestrated machine that they have going on here. The NFL is pretty phenomenal. Getting to see the inner workings, the back channels, how they set everything up, arrange it around the television commercials, and then obviously the chaos that ensues when Packers trade up or another team trades out or there's a quick position all of a sudden. The NFL is pretty spectacular at making that must-see television.
All right, there were two things I was thinking as I saw you take the stage. First was,
don't fall.
Who chose his outfit? Who chose what he wore? Who dressed him? And two was, how did you and when did you decide what you were going to say when you came out before you made the pick?
What do you mean? When did I decide what I was going to say? When I was saying it, that's when I decided it.
So when you first went out, when you go out there, because first you did the da 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 go Pat. That was what you did first before you made. You knew, you decided right there as you were walking up to the microphone that that's what you were going to say.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
What do you mean?
I would have definitely taken more time to think, all right, what am I going to do here in front of, I don't know, the entire world in front of a microphone when they're staring at me?
Yeah, here's the deal. What I wanted to do here was I wanted to represent the Green Bay Packers. I wanted to represent the young man's name that I'm going to call, and I wanted to represent Wisconsin, right? I wanted to do it the right way. So that's why I did and said what I said there. And I think, honestly, if you start diving in too deep or you try and make something too funny or too cool or viral or something like that, it could fall flat. And again, that moment's not for me. That was a fun moment. It was an honor, but that moment's for Brandon Cisse and for Chris McClellan, for those kids. And that's something they're going to see, man. Hopefully one of these guys or both of them turns into a Hall of Famer and I get to see this a couple more times.
So what about the outfit? Because Trevor and I talked about it immediately on Monday and we both agreed, like, that is the quintessential, like, Packers outfit, the khakis, brown shoes, and the Packers quarter zip.
That's why. That's why it was again. I went down to Haberdasher here in Green Bay, and classic last minute looking for a green jacket, but I didn't want, what I mean. I wanted a green jacket that I could wear to be a little bit sporty, but I couldn't find anything that I thought had the same touch, and I said the heck with it. So rolled into the pro shop and bought about 20 different things and brought them home, tried them on, and said, okay, this is what Dad John Kuhn looks like right here.
Okay, I'm glad you said that there at the end, because that was exactly how you looked.
Yep.
Was very Midwestern Wisconsin dad. Like, hey, Dad, thanks for coming and giving us the pick.
Exactly. That's what it was. That's what I am now, guys. I'm old, right? I'm not John Kuhn, the football player anymore. I'm the Dad John Kuhn now. So that's what I went out and did.
Did Lindsay say, no, try on the next one? No, I don't like that one. Go get the next one.
Yeah, we tried some stuff, and we had a couple things that were a little more sporty, and she's no, you got to wear that button up shirt, whatever kind of design that is. She knows the name of it. I don't. You're wearing that shirt, and you're going to put that quarter zip on over top. Yeah, that's what you should look like.
Good.
If there was a Packers dad bobblehead, you would be it. Like that was it.
That was Packer dad bobblehead moment.
Love it.
Hey, did you cross paths with McAfee? I feel like the Colts were supposed to pick before the Packers, but they traded down, and then they were right after the Packers pick that you came out for first. Speaking of different ways to do introductions, here you are, professional as all get out, and then out comes McAfee. I think you guys crossed paths. Am I right?
Yeah. and everybody has their own thing, right? Like, again, I'm representing the Green Bay Packers, one of the oldest franchises in all of the NFL. The tradition, the respect that was standing. Now, listen, Pat, he was a wild kicker, and he's got that great show where they're really funny, and they even have that disclaimer before a show comes on. This is meant for sports comedy and talking with some stooges, and that's the way he lives. And he was keeping honest with who he was, and I was keeping honest with who I am. And quite frankly, I'm glad that he did his little magic trick after I went out there on stage.
John, what else is coming up from 9 to noon?
Well, we are going to talk about the draft. Boys, I did something this past weekend, the draft, obviously, but something else that I never thought that I would love as much as I did. I went down to Talladega and saw a NASCAR race, was in the pit crew, went around the track at 130 miles an hour in a Ford Raptor. I had myself a Sunday, and I am here to tell you NASCAR is real.
Stories galore to come from 9 to noon with John Kuhn, Rami Makloft. Up next here on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network. Those studios powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Our thanks to all of you for participating as often as you did today on the Nicolay Law Talk and Text Line. We appreciate it. Our thanks also to Wes Hodkowitz from Packers.com for jumping on with us as well. Tomorrow is Wednesday. Happy Wednesday and Happy New Year from Doug Gottlieb, scheduled to appear at 8 a.m. We'll see you tomorrow, Wisconsin.
Because we're not done yet.